All right, welcome everyone to our first live session for DES 105. I am your instructor, Shannon McNamara, so I'm going to turn on my camera real quick just so I can say hi to you. Hello. All right, so welcome to Mod 6. I had to think about that for a second. This year is just flying by. Is it just me or I don't know. Either way, it's June, and that's kind of crazy. But we're already in Mod 6, and I'm really excited to be teaching DES 105, this mod. This is the class where you learn InDesign, which is awesome, and I cannot stress enough how important it is to learn InDesign, to understand InDesign, to love InDesign, I guess. But it's a program that you're going to use all the time as a graphic designer. So everything print-wise that is designed is really designed in InDesign. And it's kind of funny because I've been working in the Adobe programs for so long now that I kind of think of InDesign as one of the new programs. But that's because it is kind of one of the newer programs. Before Adobe came out with InDesign, which is its page layout program, there was a page layout program called Quark Express, and then there was another one that was called PageMaker Pro. And everybody pretty much used Quark Express, and they also used Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator. And Adobe said, well, wait a minute, if you're using our programs such as Photoshop and you're using Illustrator, why aren't we making a page layout program that you will use to get us more money, right? So that's what they did. And everybody at first was like, I don't know, because we bought Quark and we're going to use Quark and we kind of like Quark. But then all of a sudden it was like the industry as a whole went, we're switching to InDesign, and we all did. So, and none of us have ever looked back, and I think Quark Express might still exist, and I have no idea if PageMaker Pro exists anywhere. But yeah, we all use InDesign now. And honestly, the great thing about InDesign is everything integrates within the Adobe programs. So you can be in Photoshop doing something, go into Illustrator, bring it into Illustrator, bring it back into InDesign. And once you're in InDesign and you import your artwork, if you want to edit it, you can just click a button and it pops open for you in either Photoshop or Illustrator. So everything really works well together. So that really is the great thing about, you know, the Creative Cloud and the Creative Suite in a way. So with that being said, you know, I feel like I have a lot that I want to go over with you guys today on my agenda. So let's hop on into the slides, into the classroom, and then into InDesign. Sound good? All right. Now, one thing I want to point out, and this is new, you may notice those quick keys showing up on the bottom right-hand corner. What I did was I put a new program on my computer yesterday because I feel like when we're trying to teach you guys a program, you know, we might say, so if you hit Command 1 or Command 2 or Command 0 and you're not quite sure what it is that we're talking about, what keystrokes we're using, it can, you know, you might feel like you're constantly kind of pausing the video, rewinding, trying to figure out what's going on. So I found this quick and easy program, and it's called Keycaster, that'll put the command keys that I'm pressing on the screen for you. So I thought that might be easier for you guys, especially when we get into InDesign and I'm trying to show you everything that we're doing. And I'll kind of toggle between keeping it on just the command keys and the full keyboard. When I'm typing, I'll take it off of the full keyboard, but at least then I can kind of show you what some of the quick keys are to get into the panel. And I'll also say what it is that I'm doing, but again, it's just an added visual for you. So I hope that'll help. This is the first mod that I'm actually using this. I tried to figure out if Zoom let you do a setup where you could kind of show two screens at the same time, so I could try to figure out a way to show my keyboard at the same time, and it was just so much of a setup that I was going to have to literally set up. So hopefully the Keycaster will really take the place of that, and it'll just make it a little bit easier for you guys to learn the program that way. All right, so again, I'm Shannon McNamara. My telephone hours are roughly Monday through Wednesday, 7 a.m. Mountain Time to 2 p.m. Mountain Time, and that is because I live in Massachusetts. I'm over on the East Coast. So I get up early. I have 2 children under the age of 2, at least through the end of the month, and then one of them turns 2. And, so I'm always up early. You'll probably find that you have a lot of emails from me that I respond to early, but I do go to bed early as well because I got to catch that sleep when I can catch it. I'm an FPA as well as an instructor here at Independence. I'm also in my last 2 mods for my MBA program, which I'm also taking at Independence University. So I'm in mods as well. I'm in school mode as well. I'm in my capstone class. And so I am one of those people who understands totally what it is like to go to school here and be in the hectic, mods. That's your master's program. So I'm going for a master's in business with an emphasis on entrepreneurship, and I will be finishing up in the next 2 mods. So by mod 8, I should be all done. So thank you. So I get it. If you are having any trouble whatsoever, time managing, figuring out school and work and life, I am one of those people that can help you out there because I've been doing this for a lot of years. I've always, I've been going to school online for a lot of years. I've gone to school in person, and I've always worked while I've been in school. Right now, I work full-time for Independence University. I work part-time for an online high school. I have 2 children, and like I said, I'm also a student here as well, so I have a lot going on. I sent everyone an email, a welcome email to the course, and it does ask for a reply from you, but there is a video in there. It's actually the video that I share with all of my incoming APP 101 students. I just recorded it 2 months ago. But the first 10 minutes of it just kind of gives you an overview of me and kind of the hectic day-to-day that my life is, and I've got some tips and tricks. The rest of the video gets into Canvas and really getting into the nitty-gritty of Canvas for them. But if you feel like you need a refresher on how to find anything in Canvas, it might be a helpful video for you as well. But do make sure that you respond to my email so I know that our lines of communication are open. And here's our agenda for today. I want to kind of go over some welcome and introductions, which I think I kind of took care of there. Couple of announcements. We're going to take a look at the course. We're going to go over the discussion for this week. We're going to go over an intro to InDesign, and then we're also going to go over assignment 1. So with that being said, I want to hop over into the course for a second. So you're going to hear from me a lot this mod, and there's a reason for that. There's a lot to learn in each of these mods. You guys have probably figured that out at this point. Some of you may be in this course for a second time. Maybe you're in this course for a 3rd time. You know what? Clean slate. We are going into this mod with a clean slate that we are going to learn InDesign. We are going to have a great mod, and if you run into any problems whatsoever, I am your girl. You're gonna get in touch with me, you're gonna let me know what's going on, and I am going to do things to the best of my ability to help you out, so that way you can pass this class, because it's really important to pass this class. There's a lot, like I said, this is one of the key programs in graphic design, and I don't want you to get into your upper level classes and feel like you don't have a good grasp of InDesign, or that you don't feel comfortable in the program. So I want to do everything I can to make sure that you guys do feel comfortable in the program, and you feel comfortable, going into those other classes, and that you can put your layouts together, and that you're going to, feel really confident when you're working in InDesign. It seems like each program that you learn, by the end of it, you're like, all right, that is my favorite program. That's the program that I like using. And then you go into the next one. You're like, all right, you know what? Now that's my favorite program, and that is the program I like using. I get it. I actually learned all of my Adobe programs in the same exact order that you guys are learning them in, only this was 20 years ago. So there is a logic to the madness of how you learn things. You should learn Photoshop, and then Illustrator, and then InDesign. And the way that this program is tailored is we teach it in that order for a reason, so that way you can feel comfortable, color correcting some photos, making some vector graphics, and then bringing it all together to make a layout that has each of those elements. And that's what we're doing this mod. So again, the announcements are the way that I communicate with you. We don't have an in-classroom setting where I can stand at the front of the classroom and kind of tell you what's going on that day. So this is the way I do it. And it's not just information for this class. If I find something that I think will be helpful to you guys, I always like to share it. So there's an announcement that I shared this morning that has some keyboard shortcuts. I have our learning coach flyer for this week in there. This one's important, but I'll go over it when we get into InDesign. The Adobe programs tend to default to picas, and I don't know about you, but my brain does not think in picas. It thinks in inches because I live in the United States. So I want to show you how to change that setting in InDesign to default to inches, so you don't have to change it every single time. And then there are going to be some courses that you'll have to take where there's more of a writing component to it. Your history classes, your English classes, some of those man classes, those marketing classes. So I thought that this might be a good resource for you. It's a link to this book. It's called Right Source 2000. And randomly enough, I used this book in high school. We were given this book, or actually elementary school. And then I held on to it, and I kept it in high school, and I held on to it, and I kept it in college, and I still have it. But I found an online version that you're able to borrow for 30 days at a time, but it's really a great writing source. So if you find yourself in a class that you need to write a lot in, it might be something that can help you out. Also, just a little statement on inclement weather. We've had a lot of natural disasters lately, so just wanted to give you some information on that. Also, if you need a weekly study schedule, there's a template that you can print out there to help you out. But I am going to open up this one and open up this one. The rest you can read on your own. It's the welcome, and if you haven't yet, go in and set up your Portfolium account, and then you can connect with me. So I have a quick video on setting up and organizing your files. You guys can watch it. Oh, geez, really? An earthquake in, what is, I mean, I know it's global warming, but seriously, it's so crazy, the, climate patterns and weather and everything else. And climate and weather are two different things, but we can get into the science of that later. But, it's just so crazy. At least, knock on wood, New England's been, you know, our seasons have shifted a little bit, but you know, we haven't seen some of the really, really insane storms in a couple of years, but every time we do, it's that, you know, 500-year storm every single year. So it's really scary. So be safe out there. All right, so yeah, setting up your folders and organizing your files. I made a quick video on this, but basically each mod, I have a folder that is, you know, mod 6. I'm teaching DES 105. And then in that folder, I have my DES 105 class. And then I have all 4 weeks with everything I'm going to need in each of those weeks. And then I have it separated out even more with my discussion, my assignment, you know, other things, your work, my own notes. I like to organize my files, and I highly suggest that you do this as well. I do the same thing with my classes, my MBA classes. See, mod 2, mod 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, my course, and then all of my weeks. So I really do suggest that you set up your files that way. It's going to make it so much easier to go in and find an assignment that you may be looking for when you get to your capstone class, or just something that you want to share, you know, on your Behance page when you put those together. So again, you know, keep your files nice and organized. And like I said, there is a video that you can watch on your own to just follow along with to set up your organization for your files. And then each week, I like to give you guys some tips on how to be successful that week. So if you haven't yet, go into the introduce yourself discussion post and say hello. If you haven't yet, please reply to any and all of my emails. You should have one email from me that does say, please reply to this email. The rest of them are the announcements that get bounced to your email from me. But again, make sure that you're reading those. And then I had just some links that'll help you out this week with some best font combinations. I know that typography and pairing typography can feel really frustrating or time consuming. So here are 3 great links that you can read up, and it'll give you some inspiration for this week. Also, if you don't have those specific fonts in your font library, you can find ones that have a similar look. And those lists just kind of give you a good idea of what goes well together. So if you are really new to this, that can really help you out. And then each week you're going to have readings and videos. So make sure that you go in and you read your readings, watch the videos, watch the pre-recorded lecture. If you need some help with your discussion post for the week, you can visit the Writing Center. Again, if you need to go back in and find the recordings of the live session, they're in the live session tab. But in the announcements, I will share my slides as well with you. So, and I do break down the videos and separate out the assignments and assessments. I just find it's a little bit easier for you to go in and kind of get right to the assignment portion, especially if you come to the live session live. If you do need some extra help, the Student Success Center is available. And if you need some computer help, there is the computer support or IT. Don't forget to take your daily checkpoints. Do the daily checkpoints. They can help and hurt your grade. I have a couple of students who have lost a full letter grade because they did not go in and do the daily checkpoints. Happened last mod. I had a student who would have had a B in the course, and that student ended with a C because they did not take their daily checkpoints. And there's nothing I can do about that. It auto grades them. So please don't let that be you. Go in every single day. Take your daily checkpoint. You can put the Canvas app on your phone, on your tablet. That way you have it with you. If you're not home and you're like, oh man, I forgot to do my daily checkpoint, I actually put a reminder in my reminders, which are on my phone and on my computer. So it shows up with a red dot every day that tells me to take my daily checkpoint. Don't forget to do that. And then I like to share this every first week. So if you ever take a class with me, or if you've been in a class with me before, you'll see this. Remember, Paying for a college education and then not attending is the same as reserving a hotel room and then sleeping on the park bench at night. So please be present in the class. I want us to have a successful week 1, and then there is Adobe Help with Sean, and it's Thursdays and Fridays, and I did give a link to his Zoom room. So let's go back into the slideshow for this week. If you get to the introduce yourself and you're not quite sure what to put there, it's okay. Here's some bullet points that you can just kind of copy and paste in. You know, your name, your location, what your major is, because some of you guys are web, some of you guys are graphic design, some of you are in the bachelor's, some of you are in the associate's program. So you can just kind of tell what, you know, what it is that you're doing, what's your experience with the graphics applications, and then what are your career goals? You might find that a lot of you have similar goals. So it would be really cool to, you know, connect with each other and to, you know, remain friends, be virtual friends through school. All right, so these are our objectives for this mod, what we're gonna learn. Right? We're going to discuss the ways that InDesign is implemented by graphic design professionals, meaning what do you use InDesign for? It's pretty much everything. You can use InDesign for pretty much anything and everything, which is great. It's such a versatile program. We're going to use the panels, the tools, the frames to create documents in InDesign. And you may notice that the layout looks similar to Photoshop and Illustrator, so it's good. It's going to feel like a familiar user interface for you. You're going to learn how to appropriately apply paragraph and character style sheets. And here's the thing. What are those? In a nutshell, or in a visual, it's telling your type in this paragraph to look the same in this paragraph, to look the same in this paragraph, to look the same in this paragraph, and this paragraph, and this paragraph, and this paragraph, by the click of a button. So you don't have to go in and reset all of the panels every single time. What we do is we save something called the style sheet, and then we put in our text, and we swipe and we click. We swipe and we click, we swipe and we swipe and we click. Way easier. It basically automates everything for us, which when you have like a magazine that you're laying out, it's nice to be able to just click a button and get things to look the way you want them to look. And then we're going to correctly use master pages. So master pages are kind of the same thing. You would set a master page that maybe has a specific background and a specific layout, and it puts it on all the pages in your document, so that way you don't have to add the same photos over and over again. They're already laid out there. So again, it automates things for you. It makes your life easier. And we're all about trying to have our lives be made easier. We have enough going on, right? Anything that InDesign can do for us, do it then. And then we're also going to apply some of the basic principles and elements of design within our layout. So we're going to think of those design principles and how we can lay things out, not only correctly, but so it looks good. You know, that's kind of the point of being a graphic designer, right? Is we want things to look good. And one of the things that I plan on doing throughout this mod is I'm going to be designing things right along with you so you can follow along. However, in weeks 1 and 2, you are going to be creating a layout for a restaurant. You're going to be given their old menu and they want a fresh look. And you have 3 choices. But instead of me picking one of the 3 choices, what I'm going to do is I'm going to design my own restaurant with its own verbiage and its own images, but it is going to be a layout that will work for any of the menus that you pick. So that way you can put in your own information, but still follow along with me. So I'm going to give you kind of one of those, you don't need to reinvent the wheel layouts, you know? So that way you can focus on learning the program and not have to worry so much about you know, figuring out where to put things on the page. We can really learn the tools and what each of the tools does in the program and follow along where you're going to put your elements for your menu. So again, I think it kind of helps where you're not designing the same exact menu as me, but at least you have a layout that you know will work with your menu, and you can add in, you know, your information. You can pick your own fonts even if you want, but you'll have something to follow along to kind of take some of the anxiety out of what it is that you're doing. Because I get it. Learning a new program can kind of fill you with anxiety and can kind of make you nervous when you first get in there. At least I know it does for me. So anything I can do to kind of alleviate that anxiety, I really want to do. So that's one of the things that I found that people like, is when I'm doing my own menu, but I give you a layout that you can use. So they feel a little bit more confident in putting those skills down on the page. We're also going to learn how to properly package an InDesign document for digital output and print production. What does that mean? That means hitting File, Package, and having it take all of the images that we've used, the InDesign document itself, generating a PDF, something that I could send to a printer so they have everything they need when they open up my file. All right, due dates in the course. Assignments and assessments are due Saturday at midnight for full credit. If you are going to be late, communicate with me, because that's going to save you missed points. All it takes is an email, a text, a phone call. Be sure to leave me a voicemail if I don't answer, and let me know that your work is going to be late. And guess what? I'm not going to take off the missed points. However, I would like you to think of this course as your job, and I'm your client. So if I'm a paying client and I've come to you as a graphic designer and I need stuff from you, would you really want to be late? Because you probably wouldn't want me to be late with your payment, right? So think about that. That's where your time management comes in. And graphic design is a very deadline-driven industry. That's just how it is. If you're given a deadline, you need to meet the deadline. Your bosses are not going to be as lenient as I will be when the work is late. You know, I'm not trying to scare you about it, but like I really have seen people get fired because they were late with their constantly missing deadlines. So get yourself into the habit of meeting those deadlines now. Get yourself into the habit of meeting them in this course. It's really going to help you when you get out onto the field. Also, your original discussion post is due Wednesday at midnight. And don't forget to respond to 2 of your fellow students by Saturday and post on 2 different days. That's worth 20% of your points. So if you do your original discussion and you've written this great piece, but you don't go in and respond to 2 of your fellow students, you're not going to get higher than an 80%. Don't do that to yourself. Go for the full 60 points each week. Also, late discussion posts and assignments will only be accepted 1 week after the deadline. So make sure you are checking the deadlines in this course and when the weeks close out. So for week 1, you'll need to have a substantive post. That is a post that consists of at least 150 words and at least 1 APA formatted citation, and there are resources in the classroom for you. And again, we'll go over our discussion post for this week. And then those assignments and assessments are due on Saturday. And again, if something is preventing you from being able to get it in, contact me before it is due, because after the deadline is just that. It's after the deadline, so your work's going to be penalized for being late. So how can you succeed in this course? And success is not always an A. Success is learning something. Success is definitely passing the course, though. I would say success is a C or above. You know, it's more important to learn the program and feel comfortable in the program than to have an A on the assignment but not understand how you got to that A. So with that being said, read the announcements. The announcements contain all that information that I'm trying to share with you. That could be links, reminders, scheduling information. It's how I communicate with you. Participate in the discussion each week. Again, 60 points right there. Make sure that you're completing your assignments on time and doing those daily checkpoints, and then attend the live sessions if you can. If you can't attend them live, I 100% get it. I'm hardly ever able to go to my live sessions live. They always seem to be happening at the same exact time that I'm teaching my own. But make sure that you're watching the recordings, because I'm going to be doing demonstrations that's going to help you out. If you need help, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling confused about anything, try to come to the multi-session if you can, or at least get in touch with me and let me know what's going on. Get in touch with me before Saturday night at 10 p.m. and I don't get the email until Sunday morning. You know, look over your assignment and assessment for the week. See if there's anything that seems like it might be confusing beforehand, and I can help you out so that way you're not feeling confused. Communication is really key in this course. So our course schedule, our live sessions are Mondays at 11:30 a.m. Mountain Time, and our multi-sessions are Tuesdays at 11:30 a.m. Mountain Time. And the multi-sessions are open for you to come in if you have any problems, if you have any questions, if you feel like you need a little bit of one-on-one tutoring. I like to hold them early in the week because it gives you a lot of time to then go in and get the assignments done. You have the recordings on hand. You're able to come in and ask questions early in the week. If you do need any outside help, the Student Success Center is open with tutoring available and no appointment is necessary. And again, that's great for later on at night. But if you have questions during the day, please feel free to get in touch with me during the day. I do try to respond to students within a couple of hours. My best days are Monday through Wednesday because I have babysitting on Monday through Wednesday. Thursday, I am around. I have my kids. It can be a little bit difficult to schedule with someone, but I do try to. If there's an emergency on Thursday or Friday, I do try to schedule with someone. And I do try to answer you at least via text or email. Getting into Zoom, again, I might have some children in the background on Thursdays, but if it's an emergency, I will try to do what I can to assist you. I not only accept, but I do encourage you to resubmit your project once and take the critique that I give you to make your work better. But again, be aware of due dates and weekly closeout dates. And the best ways to get a hold of me, here is my office number, my cell if you want to text me, and my email. And you can always message me right through the course in Canvas. So does anyone have any questions before we really jump into what we're doing this week? Nope. Alrighty. And if you do, just type them in the chat. You'll notice that I'm in Zoom twice. I run it on my iPad as well, and I try to monitor the chat on my iPad while I'm going. So if you did a private message to me, it won't show up on my iPad, unless if you do the name that has the dog with the icon, not my face, but my dog. But yeah, I try to be able to watch, make sure the right screen is showing and everything else. All right, so let's take a look at what we're doing this week and what our objectives are. We're going to really get into those InDesign tools and terms, and we want to define how InDesign is used in the field and then describe 5 scenarios of when it would be used. For your quiz this week, you're going to need to identify and match 10 basic tools and the description of their use. So you should pay attention. And then you're also going to need to identify and match 5 InDesign panels and their functions. You're going to need to know how to create a new InDesign document and insert text frames and images. So the weird thing about InDesign that's a little bit different than Illustrator and Photoshop is you actually have to physically draw a text box and then put the text, insert the text into that text box, as opposed to in InDesign and Photoshop where you can just kind of press on the screen with the cursor and start typing. InDesign works a little bit differently. You have to create a text frame to hold the text. And then you're also going to need to describe the differences between InDesign's rectangle tool and the rectangle frame tool. In all honesty, there's really not much of a difference, but the differences will come up on your quiz. So I'm going to tell you right now. Actually, I'll go to the next 2 screens, and then I'll basically give you the answer for the quiz. You're going to need to utilize that rectangle, oval, and line tool to create a composition. Basically, can you draw things? Can you draw a rectangle? Can you draw an oval? Can you draw a line? Awesome. It's kind of easy, which is good. Easy is good. You're going to use the character panel to apply changes to fonts, font size, kerning, tracking, and leading. And the character panel looks the same as it does in Photoshop and Illustrator, so it shouldn't feel foreign to you, which is good. You're going to need to illustrate how to use the color palette. Prepare a document for print by using the package tool. Again, file, package. Sometimes the way that they have the learning objectives, it's literally more wordy than what it is you're doing, which is kind of it's better that it's easier to do it than it is for me to read to you what you're going to do. You're going to need to show correct image resizing and cropping methods within InDesign. And then for the discussion this week, we're going to look at InDesign and how it's used in the field today. So you might try a job website like Indeed.com. And I kind of just singled out Indeed because I love Indeed.com. You can actually set up a profile on there and upload your resume right to Indeed. That's what I do, and it's so great. And then also consider checking a few other web job sites like Monster, Art, Career Project, or anything else that you know of. And then you're going to use InDesign as a keyword in your search and take notes of the job titles and descriptions that come up. So when it comes to the discussion, some of the questions that you might want to ask yourself are any of these listings something that you might be interested in? Why or why not? Is that post or write-up about one of the positions that you found? You're going to want to, in your discussion post, list what the job duties might be and why they require InDesign as a knowledge or skill. And then list ideas of how you will become a power InDesign user so you can be hired. So one way to become a power InDesign user really is to learn those shortcuts, because it means that you can work in the program quicker. And then you want to discuss why you feel that your method of being a power InDesign user is what is going to make you successful and what is going to ultimately land you the job that you're looking at. All right. So before we get into InDesign, did you guys see Sean's email about Adobe Last Mod? And I have some of the verbiage from that email right here. So it has come to his attention that some of you who were on the old Adobe voucher system are receiving emails from Adobe about your account being past due. So while we apologize over the stress that may cause, it's more than likely that your Adobe ID that you used before doesn't match the ID that they have for you guys in the enterprise system. This is an easy fix. Just respond to Sean's email and provide your Adobe ID as you use it now, and he'll verify what he has on file to help resolve the issue. If you do need further help, if you're having any technical issues or account issues or just any issues with Adobe whatsoever, please get in with Sean. He hosts the Adobe Help Sessions on Thursdays from 1 to 3 p.m. Mountain Time and Fridays from 10 to 12 p.m. Mountain Time. And if you can't make those times, just let him know your availability because he'll be able to schedule a 15-minute meeting with you. So I've had a couple of students come to me personally with some of their Adobe issues, and I can definitely take a look, and in some instances, I have been able to help, but there have been a few things where it's just something weird that I can't fix, but I might be able to find you a workaround to at least make things work for you. So, you might want to come to me, but you might also want to go to Sean. And then even sometimes Sean's going to have to send you to Adobe Help because he can't get into the back end of the system to fix it. And it really is an Adobe Help issue. So there have been a couple of times where I have had to send a student to Sean, and Sean has then had to say, I'm sorry, but you have to get with Adobe Help. We definitely try to do whatever it is we can, but ultimately, we don't have all of the access with the Adobe programs that Adobe has, but we'll do everything we can to try to get you guys situated. All right, getting to know InDesign. So first things first, I set up my view, and InDesign has a couple of different views that you can choose from. I like to use Essential Classic, so I always like to point this out to my students because some people have said, your screen doesn't look like my screen, and they're a little bit nervous. So the reason why I choose Adobe Essentials Classic is it's just what I'm used to. I've been working with Adobe InDesign since it was Adobe InDesign, since the very, very first version of Adobe InDesign. And I like to set up my, my panel and things to look a certain way. It just makes my life easier. So I use the Essentials Classic view for that reason. So I just wanted to point that out to you guys. And that's where you can see what view I'm in. It's right here, Essentials Classic. And there's a drop down. I'll show you it when we get into InDesign. But again, I just wanted to kind of point that out for everyone. All right. So let's look over some of the tools and their functions. And these tools are going to look similar to the tools that you've seen in Photoshop and Illustrator. So again, that's good. Familiarity, I can hardly say that word, is always good. And I'm just going to say this right off the bat. You'll see some of these are grayed out, and there's a reason I've grayed them out. I have just never found a reason to use these tools. They exist. I just don't use them. Adobe has a ton of tools that you're just not always going to need to use, but they're there in case if you ever find a reason for needing to use them. There is the black mouse or black arrow tool. I call it the black arrow tool, the white arrow tool. What they are the item select tool and then the direct select tool. So you use the item select tool literally to select and move an item around the page. So I want you to think of InDesign as being a table, okay? Your kitchen table. And, you put things on the kitchen table. The kitchen table doesn't automatically become the meal, right? You have to place things on the table. And then such as plates and silverware and maybe a tablecloth. And then what do you put inside of those plates? Well, you put the food inside of the plates. Or, maybe you have a drink and then you place the liquid inside of the cup that's on the table. Things like that. So the black arrow tool is the tool that you're going to use, such as your hands, to pick up a plate and move it to a different part of the table, or pick up the salad bowl and move it to a different part of the table. The white mouse or the direct select tool, those are like your spoons and your forks, where you use that to move things around inside of the plate, or move things around inside of the big salad bowl to mix things up, or, you know, to move, I guess, if you needed to stir things up in your drink, right? So black mouse tool are your hands that move the whole item, the plate with all of its contents around the table. Direct select tool, that's your spoon or your fork that you use to mix things up inside of the content within the frame. Then here, I'm not even really going to get into these three tools because, you know, we're not going to use them this mod, and if you want to look into them yourself, you're more than welcome. Then you have your type tool. So like I was saying, everything needs to go into something. You're not just going to take the spaghetti and throw it down on the table, right? You're going to want to put it on the plate. So the type tool is what is used to draw a text box and then put the type into that text box. Everything needs to go into a container first. The line tool is what you use to literally create a line. The pen tool, very similar to the pen tool that you use in Illustrator. It lets you draw straight or curved paths. The pencil tool lets you draw with your mouse as though it were a pencil. All right, this one's important because this is going to show up on your quiz this week. You have your rectangle frame tool and your rectangle tool. The difference between them visually, the frame tool looks like it has an X in the middle of it, and the rectangle tool on its own kind of looks like it's has a little bit of a gradient to it. So the rectangle frame tool, it actually has no fill and no stroke, like a border on it by default, just a little bit of something to know. That's what you use to put a picture in your document. The rectangle tool is just to draw a rectangle, but not fill it with anything. So again, going back to my table that you're setting, the rectangle tool will be your placemat, right? And then the rectangle frame tool is the plate that you put on the table. And then you put things into the plate, such as your pictures. So just an easier way to think of that. There's a little tick or a little arrow underneath a lot of these tools. So the arrow gets you to the tools underneath that are hidden. Then you have a scissor tool. I don't use that very often, but it splits a path. The free transform tool, so it allows you to perform a transformation with just one tool. Honestly, I never use that tool because you can do the same exact thing with the black mouse tool, and sometimes it's just a little bit easier to use that. Then you have the gradient tool, so that adds a gradient. You have the gradient feather tool, which is actually a really, really cool tool. It lets you soften the gradient in the direction in which you drag. And saying that is one thing, but I'm going to do a demo to actually show you that and show you why I like to do it. It begins to let you see through, so you can kind of see what's behind something, and you gradiate it up to the picture being in full opacity. And again, it's really hard to explain. It's easier to show. And then this is like the dumbest tool ever. It creates notes. And I actually tried to use this the way that I thought it would work, where I thought, you know, if you guys submitted your InDesign file to me, I would just be able to like kind of create notes and leave notes for you, and it doesn't really work that well that way. So the note tool is a dumb tool. Adobe sometimes just makes these tools, and I swear they're like, look, we have one more tool, yay! But it's really a dumb tool. It does not work the way that it should, honestly. Then you have your hand tool, which allows you to kind of drag the document around the page without zooming in or out. But spoiler alert, as long as you're not in a text box, you can hit the space bar and it does the same exact thing. Then you have the zoom tool, which allows you to zoom in or out on the page. And you may hear me say command a lot because I'm on a Mac, but if you are on a PC, command and control are the same thing. So you would hit control when I hit command. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. I just happen to be working on a Mac. And then there's the eyedropper tool or the color theme tool. I like to change the default to this to be the eyedropper tool. I mean, the color theme tool is really cool, but honestly, I find the eyedropper tool to just be more relevant, I guess, to what it is that I'm usually doing at the time. So you'll usually see me change it to the color theme tool, to just a color tool from the color theme tool. And then, yeah, the zoom tool just allows you to zoom in and out. This one is important, and I'm glad I kind of zoomed in on it. This is the fill and stroke. So you would fill something with a color, and then you would have a stroke, which is like the border on the item. So this is how you control this. You can actually toggle. So let's say that it defaults and there's a black border on it, which for some reason InDesign loves to default things to have a black border, and it's super annoying because a lot of times you obviously don't want that black border. You know, it's not all the time that you're going to want your shapes to have a black border to them. So just be aware that that happens. You can toggle if you hit the arrows and make the black border a fill, or vice versa. And then you can turn off grids by going to this button or just hitting the W key. So that's, you know, the panels in a nutshell. And let me see, I think I have one or two. Oh, and then we've got our libraries, which you have your CC libraries. Those work the same as they do in Illustrator and Photoshop, just getting to them. In some of the programs, they're called libraries. In other programs, they're called CC libraries. But they're pretty much the same thing. It's one of my pet peeves. If you've ever taken a class with me before, I always yell and shake my fist at the ceiling at Adobe and say, why can't you get on the same page and call them the same thing across the programs to make everybody's lives so much easier. Then you have your swatches, which is where you can save custom color themes and just select them right from your swatches. You have your stroke, which adjusts the stroke type and the weight. So weight being 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, etc. And then gradient tools, adjusting gradients, colors, and you can do it in the type of gradient as well. Then that text box. So your text box will show up as a character panel, and if you were in that classic essentials mode, it will also run it up at the top of the screen, which is one of the reasons why I love being in Essentials Classic, because it runs it up there. Command or Control T will open up your character panel, and when the type tool is selected, the type options are displayed at the top of the screen. If you're on the black arrow tool, it won't show the type options, just when you're on the type tool. And then to make a text box, you just click down when you're in the type tool, you just click and drag on the screen, and it draws that type box for you. And this is an example of what a text box will look like. And again, all of the tools with all of the ones underneath. And I do share my slides with you. So this might be a good slide that you'll want to print out and just hold on to for basically forever. And then the assessment for week 1, which is the page after the assignment. It's a quiz, and it's based on the week 1 live session, the readings, and the videos. There's 11 questions, but you have no time limit to take the quiz. So be careful to read the questions. If you need to, Google the question, Google the answer, open up a tab in a new browser tab and go back to the readings and videos if you need to. To help discourage cheating, we change up the questions, but there is nothing wrong in looking up the correct answer so you can get a 100 on this. It goes over the 10 basic tools and the description of their use, 5 InDesign panels and their functions, and then the difference between the rectangle tool and the rectangle frame tool, how to create a new document and insert text frames and images. And then for the assignment for this week, I am going to do a demo of this. You're going to create and design the cover for your menu that you choose. So in week 2, you're going to design the rest of the menu, and you're going to get into those styles that I've been talking about. And then in the field of graphic arts, we like to give clients more than one option to choose from. So this week, what you're going to do is design 2 versions of the same menu cover. So that way you can go to your client and you can say, pick one. Which one do you like? Because that's how we do things. I have some stock art options for you here to help you out. One is Subtle Patterns. I love this website. It's like one of my favorite places to go to get literally what it's called, a subtle background pattern to put on something. Again, there's like 75 or 40 something pages that you can look through of patterns, and you can preview what they will look like. They're really subtle, so they're just nice to put in the background. It gives your menu a little something extra. Then I have Pexels.com and Unsplash.com here. So both of those have stock images, which will be great if you're looking for some food photos to put on your menu cover. And then I also have a link to Adobe, it used to be called Typekit, they just changed the name of it, to Adobe Fonts, which is fonts.adobe.com. So you can add some new fonts that you want to try out, and they will actually sync right to InDesign. So these are your options for this week. Maxwell's, which is fine steaks and seafood. And there's a little bit of a write-up on each of the restaurants, so you have a feel for them and know what their vibe is. So Maxwell's has graced downtown Atlanta for over 80 years. Since they're known worldwide for their overall customer experience, there's a 6-month waiting list for reservations. The staff wears tuxedos. There is crisp white linens on the tables, and it's candle lit. Their entrees range from $52 to $82, and their side dishes are all served a la carte. So it is a Buco Bucks restaurant. It is a truly fine dining experience. So you are given a picture of a chef guy and then 3 food photos. I would save these images for when you design the layout for the menu, which is the actual menu pages, and possibly go to Pexels or to, what's the other one? I just said, Pexels and Unsplash, that's what it is. I always forget the name of that one. To find a really nice, crisp, high-res photo for page 1. So you want to think about the vibe of each restaurant when you are picking photos and picking fonts. This is a very upscale restaurant, so that should be reflected in your font choices and in your imagery that you pick. This is what their original menu looked like. You are not going to use this layout or this cover because they want a new look. They're coming to you because they want their menu refreshed. They want it redesigned. So do not recreate the old menu. Number 2 is Starlight Bistro, something great by the sea. So best friends Margot and Penny opened up Starlight Bistro after not finding what they really wanted in a restaurant, healthy food. I hear them, seriously. So Starlight Bistro is a very small restaurant. It's decorated with holiday lights, star ornaments, colorful prints. It's eclectic in food, entertainment, and personalities. The shoes are optional because they're situated right on the beach and everything is under 20 bucks. So here are their food photos. So definitely a different vibe than Maxwell's. This is their original menu layout, which again, do not follow, but it kind of gives you an idea. And then number 3 is Walk and Roll. They're Chinese and sushi. So they came about when Lou and Wen decided to stop competing for Orlando's best in Asian cuisine and instead join forces and create a unique Orlando dining experience. So families from all around the world feel comfortable in the simple, contemporary, black and white or red decor. The prices range from $8.95 to $15.95. So again, pretty good prices, and it's certain to yield more than one meal. And here are your food photos for Walk and Roll and their original menu. For each of the menus, you are given their logo to use as well as the food photos. You just need to come up with a different layout for them. It needs to be set up in InDesign 8.5 by 11. Number of pages is 2. There's specific margins, a specific bleed, and you need to turn off spreads. And then note that your initial default setting is going to be in picas, so you want to change your preferences to inches before you create your new document. And I did supply a video in the announcements to show how to do this, and I will go over it again. So again, use the logo and tagline from your restaurant. You're going to create a menu cover layout. You're going to add colored or patterned backgrounds. You're going to use the photos provided plus add lines or shapes to your design. And it can be simple or complex, as you know, you need to think about what that restaurant warrants. Then you're going to go to page 2 and create a second version of the cover that looks completely different. So consider trying a different background, experiment with different opacities, colors, type combinations, make 2 different versions to show your client. And then remember, whatever you start in week 1 is going to carry over to week 2. So if you copy the layout from the example, your creativity score is going to be really low because your client wants a new design. That's what they're paying you for. So if you go in and you say, here you go, and you give them the same exact design that they had, do you think they're going to pay you for that? No. So package the file when you're finished and be sure to include all images, fonts, and a high-res PDF with the crop and bleed marks. And then you're going to zip that package and name it DES 105 Assignment 1, your first and last name. And then you're going to turn in the zip file. So we're going to go over all of this today and make sure that you look over the rubric in the class. So any questions before we get in and really start diving into InDesign? All right, and so again, just a reminder on that demo, I'm going to be doing a different restaurant with a different copy, but this is a layout that I'm showing you that you can use for any of the 3 restaurants that you choose. You're just gonna need to follow along and then put your restaurant copy in photos in. And then again, just a note, watch for those quick key commands on the screen. It should really help you to know what it is that I'm clicking. All right. So first things first, Zoom is like everywhere on my computer.